All right, I traveled all the way to Vancouver, Canada to find out for you guys who has the better skiing, North America or Europe.
I thought you came to Canada to see me.
Of course, sweetie. Skiing. Right, we're here at Whistler Blackcomb, Canada, the biggest ski resort of North America, and we're going to do a little bit comparison between skiing in the US or Canada and Europe. We're going to compare lift ticket prices, snow, lineups, food, all the good stuff. Since I'm from Europe, obviously you might think I'm a little bit biased, so in order to, bring the bias down, I have brought along my buddy Rich, who's from the US of A, so he can give highly qualified input as well.
We don't call it US of A, we call it America.
America, all right.
Freedom.
Well, let's see how much those lift tickets are, because I have a feeling they won't be cheap. I just wanted to ask like the regular day ticket prices right now.
108,795.
188.
Yeah.
Bigger pelts.
Do you want a ticket?
No.
Yeah, on that day it would be $240.45.
$240.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Thank you. Right. A couple weeks later, we're back in Europe. So yeah, $188 for early season skiing in Whistler. Let's see how much it is at my local resort here, which is like a medium-sized resort. Let's go check it out. So a day ticket here on opening day is 45 euros, and over Christmas it will be 55 euros. So that's the maximum you could pay here. So yeah, you could basically ski 3 times as many days here as you could in Canada for the same price, which definitely adds up, especially if you bring your whole family. So
looks like we're going to Europe, boys.
the most expensive lift ticket I could find in Europe was Cortina d'Ampezzo with 69 euros for the day. And as for the US, if you have an excess amount of money you need to get rid of,
This is what you've been working for.
why don't you go to Steamboat, Colorado over Christmas? Just 243 euros for a day pass. I know the comparison isn't 100% fair, because if you buy a season pass, the prices are a little bit closer together, though still cheaper in Europe. However, the problem in North America is that you have to buy your season pass really early, usually before the end of November, or prices will go up, or the pass might not even be available at all, which is something they don't generally do in Europe. So the signs in North America and Europe are a little bit different. In Europe we have blue, red and black, whereas in North America we have green, blue, black and double black. So no red and also double black.
So I'm confused. Yes.
I think black runs are roughly the same, usually ungroomed moguls, and double blacks in North America is usually an off-piste run, usually something steep. Now what's quite nice in North America is that every run has its own name, makes it easy to find your friends. In Europe they don't really do that, they just put numbers, which is a little bit weird. So half a cuteness point for North America.
Kawaii.
Now one thing I really find lacking in North America is rustic ski huts, like the one behind me. Now of course not all huts in Austria are like this, some are better than others, some have table service, some have self-service, some have great food, some not so much. I guess my main issue with North American ski lodges is that often it just feels like a big cafeteria and the prices are fairly steep.
$42.15. And they ask you for tip. Tip.
Maybe the food is really delicious.
I mean, at least they got ketchup. And you know what? You put a little ketchup, a little Heinz, on your burger there. Yeah, and you just spread it around like that. Yep, that right there. That's an American delicacy right there. Look at that. Oh, yeah, that's all right. That's all right. I mean, it's not McDonald's.
And yeah, I'm aware it really depends on the resort and the country. Prices in Canada are just higher in general, and if you went to a hut in Switzerland, it also wouldn't be cheap. I think best bang for buck is in Austria and Italy. France is somewhere in the middle. So even at this hut with self-service, you still have nice tables to sit at. Usually I just go to huts with table service because the price isn't really any different. And of course I know there are huts with table service in Canada and the States as well, but I find they usually have a very elitist touch to it. So a lot more accessible here. So with the high ticket prices in North America, you'd think they would have like top-notch lifts. But yeah, I think European ski resorts are on average way better developed. Like a 6 or 8 person chairlift, like the one I'm in right now, with heated seats, not really uncommon. They even have heated seats in gondolas.
Is that necessary?
In Whistler, it's actually not too bad. Their lifts are fairly new, at least some of them. There's still some older quads. But yeah, if you went to like a smaller resort in North America, don't be surprised if you come across a slow 2-person chair. That'll take forever. Point goes to Europe. As for crowds, I'm not really sure because I've seen big crowds in Europe and I've seen big crowds here. In fact, this morning at this one lift, the crowd was like all the way through the parking lot. Then at the other lift, it wasn't. So I think it really depends where you go.
A few moments later.
So I actually take that back with the lineups. It's pretty fucking bad right now. Now in Europe, the density of ski resorts is a lot higher, which makes it easier for people to spread out. And yeah, a person from Munich could easily reach 30, 40 ski resorts within a 2-hour drive. And that number goes up exponentially for longer drives. Whereas if you live in North America, there might only be one option around you. So if you're from Vancouver, your only choice is Whistler really, if you want to get some decent skiing in. Sorry, North Shore Mountains. And yeah, sure, if you go to St. Anton over Christmas, the lineups will be crazy as well, but I think they will be even worse in North America. So, point for Europe. Now, what the Europeans are not so great at is crowd management. Lining up at the lifts is usually a fucking mess here. People will just step on each other's skis and everyone pushes to the front. Whereas in North America, they will put up separate lanes where people group up beforehand, and then each time 2 lanes merge, people will just alternate. Very stress-free. I really wish they did that in Europe as well.
Yeah, it is kind of surprising that the Germans don't line up better, you know, given how they're all about the trains being on time and being all efficient and stuff.
All the German trains aren't on time, ever.
Oh, okay.
They also don't do single lines in Europe, so sometimes you have this first huge clusterfuck, but then the chairlift ends up half empty because people want to stay together. And yeah, here you got a single line, so if it's, let's say, 3 people on the squad chairlift, then it'll just get filled up by an extra person, so you'll never have empty lift, which is a lot more efficient than Europe. And as a German, I don't take efficiency lightly. When it comes to snow, I clearly have to give the point to North America because they just get so much more snow. Like Whistler, it gets over 10 meters of snowfall every winter. Europe, if we get 5, we can be pretty happy. Of course, where you go makes a big difference too. Whistler is very close to the ocean. That's why they get a lot of snow. The downside is that it can be too warm and the snow can be a little bit wet. If you go into the Rockies, you might get less snow. In places like Lake Louise, the snow will be a lot drier there. But yeah, places like Utah, they'll have a shit ton of snow, way more than the Alps, even in good winters probably. In my opinion, and what I've gathered from other sources, as far as grooming goes, Europe might have a slight edge compared to North America, which isn't too surprising because carving on groomed runs is really popular in Europe, as opposed to going off-piste. I know I'm generalizing here, but still, half a point to Europe. So when it comes to off-piste skiing, there's a big cultural difference because what you need to understand is actually that the whole mountain is owned by one entity. So in this case, Whistler Blackcomb. So they own everything. They own the restaurants, they own the ski lifts, they own ski school. In Europe, it's different. Like anyone can basically put a hut up on a mountain, more or less, or run their own ski school. So what that means is that Whistler Blackcomb is also liable kind of for everything that's going on here, which then means that actually everything is controlled in terms of avalanche safety. Here back behind me we have, that would be a double black run, that's like called Cooler Extreme. And that would be avalanche controlled. And if the AVI danger is too high, they would not open it and you would not be allowed to just tour up there. In Europe, it's a different thing. They might bomb certain runs because there might be a danger to like groomed runs. But if it's out of bounds, people in Europe don't really care. That's why in Europe, you usually gotta take your avalanche gear when you go out of bounds. Here, the nice thing is you don't have to do that. So yeah, if the lifts were running, we could just go up there and ski it and know it's safe. In Europe, I've seen avalanches basically right next to the chairlift happening with people buried in it. So it's kind of nice that here you can just go wherever you want. Now the downside with everything being controlled in North America is that more people are going off-piste and it can turn into quite the rat race. Like I remember lining up at Peak Chair in Whistler an hour before it opened and I wasn't even in front of the line. And then when the lift did open, everything would get shredded really fast. I actually had to line up at Air Jordan, which is a fairly big double-stager cliff, but there were so many people just standing that yeah, I had to wait for my turn. Of course, there are also resorts in Europe that are popular for free skiing, so they will attract bigger crowds on POW days. But I find a lot of the smaller resorts, they might actually have less people on the storm day, just because most people go ski groomers. So if you know your way around the local resort, it's not too uncommon to actually find POW all day. And if you watched the video about skiing in East Tyrol, that one run, which was completely untracked, that was done at 3 p.m. in the afternoon. So in the end, I guess I'll have to call it a tie. 1 point to each. So Après can really differ a lot depending on what resort you go to. In Austria we have some famous resorts like Ischgl or St. Anton, where people really like to party it up. Incidentally, it's also where Corona took off in Austria. So proof is in the pudding. And yeah, the other night we went tobogganing in the Zillertal, and halfway down the mountain we got to this hut and there was just like a wild dance party. Now those guys still had to make it down the mountain in their tipsy state, which is something completely unthinkable in North America because of the liability issue. Therefore I think it's not too surprising that Après in North America is a little bit more low-key. It usually entails having a drink with your family or friends at a bar or a restaurant before you head back to your accommodation, or having beers in the parking lot if you're a bum. Cheers. Cheers. And of course, places like Whistler with many bars and nightclubs offer a lot in terms of Après, but I think going wild while still on the mountain is kind of unique to the Alps. And I should probably also mention that Schnaps is really ubiquitous in Austria. While I was filming this, I had to take so many shots, not because I wanted to, I mean, I didn't mind, but because it was either free or I got invited. Gesundheit. So ultimately, point goes to Europe. Alright, let's look at the final tally and see who's the winner. Well, there's no winner because I think it's kind of stupid to just randomly add up points for categories I invented. I mean, both sides have their pros and cons and it really depends what's important to you. My aim for this video was to give you a little insight of what to expect if it's your first time skiing in the Alps or North America. And if you're passionate about skiing, which you probably are if you're watching this and you've never been off the other side of the pond, then yeah, you should definitely check it out because I don't think you'll regret it. Both sides are very unique in their own way. Just be smart about it when it comes to things like lift tickets and going off-piste. And maybe you don't even want to resort ski. Maybe you want to go to Canada for ski touring or cat skiing or heli skiing. So let me know in the comments if you want more info about that. Anyways, I hope you found this video useful. I gotta eat these white sausages now before the clock strikes noon. And then probably drink more schnapps. So thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Prost. Oh.
Ich war schon besser. Aber ich bin jetzt, wenn der Stecker bleibt.